I, 45 male, have a son, Logan, 21 male, and daughter, Emily, 22 female. My ex consistently fought for custody, and she won. Logan and I were very close, but Emily wanted nothing to do with me. I did purchase Logan and Emily their first car when they turned 18. Logan still drives the car today. Emily ended up selling the car after a year and used the money for college. My ex passed away last year, and Logan moved in with me. Emily moved in with her current boyfriend and has been firm on not wanting me in her life. Her boyfriend got into an accident recently, and Emily reached out to me asking if I could help her with purchasing a car. I did some research and sent her some cars that were for sale and decently priced. She reached back out saying that she wanted a brand new Tesla. I looked at the Tesla pricing, and the model was over the amount I wanted to spend. I told her that I could not help with purchasing the Tesla, and she got angry, saying that her boyfriend wanted the car, and she didn't have the money. I again told her that I would be willing to help her purchase another car that was in the budget. She went back to not contacting me. Am I the a-hole for not buying my daughter's boyfriend a car? This is really your question? You owe neither her nor her boyfriend, especially not her boyfriend, a car. You did it once, and she made her, perfectly reasonable, honestly, choices. You don't exist just to be her Miss Moneypenny. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. Tell Emily she can buy her own car. She only called you when she needed something. She's selfish and doesn't care about you. Not the a-hole. Why is it your responsibility to buy a car for her boyfriend, a human being not even related to you, and dating someone who doesn't even speak to you? Even if it's not a brand new Tesla, you shouldn't spend a dime on him. Even if the car is for her, you still don't have to purchase it for her. And she should be grateful for anything that you're willing to gift her. Also, she made it clear that she doesn't want you in her life. I'm sure you think doing this would help crack the door open to her life and have a relationship with her. But you really need to put your foot down and tell her this or nothing. She will grow up. Due to virus-related issues, I, 25 female, had to stay at my sister's house for 3 weeks. My sister, 35 female, works in an essential field, and hence had to go to work every day, while her husband, 32 male, mostly worked from home, but had to go to his office 2 or 3 times a week. Because their hours were so difficult to manage and work around, my sister hired a babysitter to look after their 6-year-old daughter. This babysitter, 24 female, stayed at their house in a guest bedroom and also did other things for the family. Take care of their dog, including taking her on walks, helping my niece with her schoolwork, occasionally taking care of their garden, etc. It's only when I went to their house to stay, last month, that I realized the true extent of their situation. The babysitter was extremely attractive, and she wore skimpy clothing. She seemed to be in competition with Tesla's short shorts. She literally wore camis or thin tank tops half the time, and she cited Los Angeles' weather as the reason why. When I asked her about it, she also said, "This is how people in Los Angeles dress," and basically called me ignorant. I tried to warn my sister about this situation, about how she was leaving her husband at home with such a woman for extended periods of time. Anyone would be tempted. Her husband has been unfaithful to her in the past. All the more reason to be extra cautious, right? I also asked her what kind of an example her babysitter was setting for her young daughter. I think I might be the a-hole because my sister got so upset with me and literally blew up in my face. She said that she trusted her husband completely and that they had gone to therapy together and worked out their issues. She also said that I was wrong for questioning the girl's character and for asking what kind of example her babysitter was setting. She basically called me sexist. She also accused me of lashing out because I was never considered popular or attractive in high school or college with boys, so I had become resentful. She has to be an a-hole for that, right? When I told my boyfriend about this, he joked, "I didn't know I was dating a misogynist." I think the only reason I wasn't kicked out of the house was because of last-minute intervention from my dad. He also seemed to take my sister's side, however. My relationship with my entire family now seems acrimonious. Am I the a-hole here? Yes, the a-hole. First of all, can we all please stop reducing men to useless S-crazed lumps with no control over their pee? Because I think that trend is getting old. That said, the way a woman dresses is her choice, period. You don't get to question her about it. Furthermore, your sister's marriage and trust issues with her husband aren't any of your business either, period. Yes, the a-hole. You really do seem sexist. She's of questionable character because of how she dresses, and men can't be trusted around attractive women? Come on, OP. Also, if she's staying in your sister's house, do you just think she's blind and doesn't see this girl? Or is she too stupid to see the threat you seem to? It's got to be one or the other if you felt like you needed to warn her to be wary. Not the a-hole. I would be worried too if I were in your shoes, especially if they had issues before. You were right to voice your concerns to your sister. Also, you're not sexist, just a very concerned brother. I think that she is scared to even think of that you might be right. But the thought of enduring the pain of being cheated on again and possibly losing her family is not something she wants to think about, and this is why she lashed out at you. That being said, I hope, for her sake, that you're wrong. This will probably only make sense if I tell you a bit about my ex-friend. Let's call her Lucy. I met her in freshman year college, and she was part of a larger friend group because we all lived in the same hall. For as long as I've known her, she has had pretty significant mood swings. Sometimes she was a super sweet and caring person, but when she gets stressed out, she would become verbally and physically A and blame everything in the universe if there's something negative happening in her life. Her A side has gotten progressively worse since college. I could write a whole book about Lucy, but I'll spare you the details because it's not directly related to the advice I'm trying to get. Over the last couple of years, each of the people in our friend group have cut contact with her, and I think I was probably the last one to still respond to her. Every conversation I have with her goes in circles, and she ends up back in a state of anger and frustration, and I usually hang up when she hurls verbal A at me. I met my husband about 3 years ago, and he has always been incredibly supportive of me. I have vented to him many times about Lucy because interactions with her always leave me feeling emotionally drained and feeling like I'm going crazy. He has encouraged me many times to cut contact with her because it's not worth setting yourself on fire to keep her warm. So earlier this month, I blocked her. Earlier today, I ran into Lucy at the grocery store, and she confronted me about why I haven't been responding to her. She started screaming, so I left the grocery store and went home, but as I was pulling into my apartment parking lot, I see a car speeding towards me. Sure enough, it was Lucy's car. I think she was aiming for me, but I steered the car away, so she ended up crashing into the rear door behind me and destroying both our cars. Before I was able to compose myself after the crash, she drove off with the front part of her car missing. I called the police and told them everything. Thankfully, I'm uninjured. All afternoon, I've been calling insurance and trying to look for options to get the car fixed. Nothing is finalized yet, but the insurance agent said judging by the pictures, he's not optimistic that it's fixable, worth fixing. I know I need to tell my husband, but how do I tell him the car he's been saving up for years and then spending months waiting for it to arrive is damaged beyond repair? Especially because I feel partially responsible since, in hindsight, I realize I should have cut contact with Lucy years ago. A part of me knows that outwardly he'll brush it off, say that he's happy that I'm safe and that objects can be replaced. But I'm scared that he'll resent me. He loves this car. He has a strong sentimental attachment to it because it's his first car, and he's even given it a cute nickname like a pet. We joke about how it's like his firstborn child. We don't have any kids yet. And it's the holidays. What kind of crap holiday present is it to find out that your brand new car that you got 2 weeks ago got totaled? I've tried looking at ways to buy him a new one, but I obviously can't make such a big financial decision without discussing it together. And the other problem is current delivery times for this car is 10+ months. It's a Tesla for anyone wondering why it takes so long. We could buy used, but used prices are even higher than new, and the used cars have 20K plus miles on them. He is on a business trip right now and will be coming back on Friday for the holidays. I'm struggling between deciding to tell him now or telling him in person when he gets back. What words can I even use to tell him? Has Lucy been arrested? It sounds like you need a restraining order. Call your husband and tell him that you're okay. Reassure him that you weren't hurt when the psychopath rammed into you at full speed. Tell him that she's been arrested and can't make another attempt on your life, that you're safe, so he doesn't need to come home. Explain to him that the car is badly damaged, but that you survived the attempted M. Your husband is going to be relieved that you're all right. He's going to be upset about the car, sure, but probably sometime later. Hearing the news that his wife was nearly K'd is going to take up his attention for a little while. Update. In hindsight, I was too hyper-focused on the car and didn't really fully process the fact that someone I've known for 7+ years tried to hurt me. As for breaking the news to my husband, that didn't turn out quite the way I expected. I knew that I had to tell him as soon as possible, and I was trying to figure out the best way to phrase it. But about 20 minutes after I made my post, he actually called me in a panic because he was afraid I was in a coma in the hospital or something. Turns out, his Tesla and the phone app has a lot more bells and whistles than I knew about. It sent him notifications and videos from the car's cameras about the crash, but he didn't see them until the evening. His company has a strict policy about only company-issued phones being allowed to be turned on while in the tech center office. So when he finished work and pulled out his personal phone, he was greeted by multiple notifications that a crash had occurred and links to the videos. Since by that point it had been many hours since the crash, he was terrified that I had been seriously injured. At first, he was incredibly upset with me for not calling him immediately on his work phone. After I apologized profusely and explained the whole story, his frustration turned to concern, and he insisted I go see a doctor to get a full physical, even though I felt fine. He then got the first flight he could find the next morning, and he's been spending the last 2 days with me and taking his work meetings remotely. I've apologized a couple times for not cutting my ex-friend Lucy off earlier, before my husband came into my life, and I've apologized for the loss of his car. But each time he just brushes it off and says something that melts my heart away like, "I'm happy the car did its job and protected you from Lucy." Or, "The car is a thing, and things are replaceable. You're not." The insurance paperwork still isn't finalized yet, but it's looking increasingly likely that the car will be a total loss. I think my husband placed an order, or at least is seriously contemplating placing a new order for a new car. We'll probably have to wait 10 or 12 months to get it, but in the meantime, we still have my car to drive, and we'll figure something out. My husband also wants us to do some marriage counseling, because he says I have a tendency to avoid or push off difficult conversations. After this week, I realize he's probably right, so we'll be exploring that early next year. As for me, I'm glad I escaped the crash mostly unscathed. I got an urgent care appointment for the next day, and the doctor concluded there wasn't anything seriously wrong with me, but recommended I get a more comprehensive check from my primary care physician next week. 2 of my teeth have been hurting since Tuesday, and I'm not sure if it's related to the crash. My husband suspects I might have bitten down too hard on my teeth, as I was bracing myself for the crash and cracked something. But I made an appointment with the dentist next week to check. In my original post, I didn't say much about what happened with Lucy after the crash, because the post was already getting long and it wasn't directly relevant to the advice I was seeking. But the police arrested her soon after the crash and called me to let me know. Apparently, it was pretty easy because they found her at home. I gave them her address, and the front section of her car was missing and beaten up. They asked her if she had been in an accident earlier that morning, and she told them a harrowing tale about how she barely escaped a violent motorcycle gang. When the police asked her why she didn't report it or seek assistance from emergency responders, she looked like a gobsmacked goldfish. This was all told to me by the detective assigned to my case. I didn't witness the arrest myself. I've been in contact with the other people from my college friend group that also knew Lucy, and they all expressed a mix of sympathy, mild surprise, and appreciation for me giving them a heads up. One of my friends actually had a situation a couple years ago where Lucy threatened to hurt my friend's dog after she cut contact with Lucy. But nothing ended up happening, so they forgot about it and moved on with life. My husband and I are searching for lawyers to help us with filing a restraining order as well as exploring other possible legal actions. But we haven't gotten any replies back yet because it's the holidays. I doubt it'll be worth the time and money to sue Lucy for damages, but it's an option we're considering. The attorneys that we have had preliminary consultations with so far have all advised us not to speak to Lucy directly, nor speak too much about this situation publicly, aside from basic facts while there's pending litigation, legal considerations, so I won't be posting any more about her in the foreseeable future. Long story short, we're overall doing pretty well. The craziness has settled down a bit, and my husband and I are sticking to our planned holiday festivities. A little background information. I am 29 female, and I have a precious 3-year-old daughter. My daughter enjoys playing in our backyard, and our family enjoys barbecuing, and have many family gatherings. Our neighbor has a 4-year-old daughter who would often play with my daughter. We live in a very safe neighborhood, but my neighbor, about 3 months ago, bought a dog, a black Doberman Pinscher. This dog is aggressive and scary, and has a bark that makes the hair on your legs stand up. Unfortunately, there was nothing that I could say because the dog was my neighbor's property and never came into my yard at first. I just stopped having my daughter play with the neighbor's daughter. About 3 months ago, the neighbor's dog tore at the fence vigorously and made a hole in the fence and would periodically come into my yard. The dog would eat the leftover burgers that were in the garbage and make a mess. The dog would also scare my daughter and bark until she was in tears. I begged the neighbor to fix the fence and halt the insanity. One day, the dog even bit my precious daughter. Thank the good Lord that she was not injured. We were having some work done on our pool, roof, and the side of the house, and there was hazardous material. The dog came into the yard and was eating random stuff, and even inedible poisonous objects. I felt bad that the dog had eaten something hazardous and ultimately got sick and died. The neighbor asked me for funeral expenses of $200 USD for the dog. I refused to pay anything as the dog was really trespassing. My husband told me later that night to just pay the neighbor $200, but I feel out of principle that I shouldn't pay her. Am I the a-hole for not assisting in my neighbor's dog's funeral fees? I don't believe your story. Why didn't you block the hole in the fence? Why did you leave it there so this dog would come over and apparently bite your kid? Why didn't you stop it biting your kid? I assume you were there. And what kind of poisonous objects could you have in your garden? Maybe neighbors suspect you left these poisonous objects on purpose, and that's why he's asking you to cover the expenses.